Alright, well, here we are playing Europa Universalis, and I noticed I found this pile of player objectives. I'm assuming this is out of the Risto events as opposed to the other thing, because I've only got 6 powers per thing. These are updated values and may actually help the game quite a bit. So I'm going to go back and rework my goals for the players. And what's kind of nice with these is I can actually use numbers on them. They're indexed correctly. You can see the values can be kind of more important here. So for example, the Gascon combination isn't the big penalty that it was, say, for England. So although I doubt that it's going to completely change the balance of the game and make it more reasonable, I think it certainly can't hurt it. Like I said, this first period, England is just screwed because of those. And some of the other powers also have some real problems. So maybe each period is better balanced, and maybe the game itself is better balanced. I'm not expecting it to really allow all powers to have an equal chance, but maybe enough so that with diplomacy and some, hunting the bunny or whatever, by which of course I mean the leader, this can work. So I definitely do want to use these suckers. I just didn't know about them. I'll get them in a moment. Okay, well, this chart is significantly different from the original. I've translated what I can over, but there are some big differences to what the goals are. So let's take a look at what we have. The English key Scotland vassal, that's 75 points. They want Calais back. That's worth 100, or they want to hold it. That's worth 100 points. And there's a modifier if they have Gascony and Guyenne, which I believe doubles it or something, or maybe 50 points each per province or whatever. They want a monopoly in their CTZ. That's only 10 points, which isn't a big one. And they want to make sure nobody's sole defender of the Catholic Church, with the exception of themselves. And that's worth 10 points double if they get it. All right, on to France. France wants Calais back as well, 50 points. These are kind of mirroring what we saw. But now that it starts getting weirder, they want Milan or Naples, 60 points. There's a modifier if they get both, but a 20-point penalty if they don't get either. They want Scotland as an ally. This is different. This is missing, and they have a lot of bonuses towards Scotland. They're taking that for 20 points, 40 points if it's a vassal, and they want allies in the Holy Roman Empire or in Italy. If they have the most in those areas, they get 5 points. Moving on, Venice wants to keep the Mamluks alive, 100 to negative 20. They want all their original provinces, 15, no sole defender for 20, and Italian allies, the majority of them for 10. So you can see there's conflicts already building up that are just automatically built into this one. And it feels a lot better than the other one to me already. I'm really looking forward to what the new events are going to be like if this kind of... See, the problem is this game was just simply not developed sufficiently. Brilliant ideas, huge undertaking, but some key issues like, hey, the victory conditions and the events that it's based on, they just weren't fleshed out enough. Portugal, they want nobody violating Tordesillas in their territory. That's 100 points for them, minus 20 if they fail. They want a colony in India. This is to replace the Goa thing. It's worth 45 points. No penalties in this. Very, very few of these have penalties if you don't get them. 3 colonies in the Americas worth 20. And they want Tangier and Morocco to not be anyone else's. They can lose Tangier to, say, Morocco, but they can't. They don't want any major power to own it. And that's worth like 5 points. Big difference, because Morocco's an almost impossible goal for them. But preventing Turkey from getting it might be quite possible. Spain, Spanish Italy. I don't know what the requirements are there. Among other things, it means nobody gains new provinces in Italy, and they hold 4. Now, here's the question. Do they hold 4 currently? I'm not sure of what the answer to that is. I think so. They've got these 2, and they've got the 2 Sicilian. I think the answer is yes. And they've got padding because chances are they're going to get Milan automatically. I don't want to look up and try to see, is Sicily part of Italy in this case? I think it is. I don't think Sardinia is, however. Okay, sole defender of the Catholic faith, 30 points. Tordesillas, similar to Portugal's, they just don't want anybody else in their Tordesillas regions, so they get 30 points for that. And the conquest of Tenochtitlan, and this is a beautiful one, because you want to do this anyway, 15 points for that. It's a nice big gold mine. A lot of, easy to collapse in this first period. Definitely something you want to do. Okay, how about Turkey? They want the Mamluks out of the way still. But here it's 100 points, only minus 20 if they fail. Before it was 30 and minus 20 if they fail. Hungary eliminated, a big 20 points for that. Now Hungary is not necessarily trivial to eliminate, but their army collapses kind of like the Mamluks do. It seemed like a good choice to me. No Christian ports in the Black or Caspian Sea, sorry. This is a new one. That's 30 points, and they currently have that, but it's possible for something to fall into someone else's hands. It's possible for, say, Russia to advance to Astrakhan or something. At this point, beautiful choice for them, though. And then the fall of Rhodes, 15 points. This is probably the least likely, and you might say, well, one of those others would have been worth it, but there's no penalty for it. It's a decent amount of points. Other things wouldn't have brought it, and you do really want them out of the way as soon as possible, because it definitely makes life a lot easier on the Turks if they can get them out of there. I like to get them out of there early. Later goals involve getting them out of there. If you can't, though, you'll live with it. But it's definitely something you want out of there because that privateer is going to make your life hell. Okay, so now back to the game. And here, what I was looking for when I started this is, hey, let's start rolling some of the country objectives here. And with only one D10, I'm not going to be able to do that very well. I really need to get lots more D10s out because I like to have one per color, per country, and all kind of cool stuff like that. Yeah, okay. All right, I'm going to make black high, and I'm going to roll here for whoever's first. That's Spain. And I'll just flip through these, and you'll see kind of how they work. Okay. So 69, no biggie here. That's going to be event number 4. Great. Agricultural crisis. The country loses 50% of its income from provinces this turn. This is a temporary loss on the other territorial income. It concerns only provinces of the player, none of his vassals. So what do? Well, you go open this up and say, don't use a pen because you can't erase that, and say, okay, I've got an income from provinces of 213. I've just lost 106. And I'll mark that here. And I'm going to have to add this all up. Sometimes it's a little tricky. I'd rather have different charts than these photocopies I've made because I do just keep it as kind of a running total. But, well, with these you have to add it up all the time. All right. What I'm going to do is roll up the rest of these and come back, and then we'll go to the specific events that we roll up for the period. Okay, of course I lied. I found the order for these suckers. It's not the same as it is in Empires of the Middle Ages. It's admin, dip, and then military. It's going to be kind of hard to remember, but here's what's the reason it happened. Portugal rolled up their event, and it was excellent minister. So they're getting someone with a 9 diplomacy for the next I think for the rest of this monarch. And what that's going to mean is their next monarch has a penalty to his diplomacy rating. But for now, Portugal has a very good diplomacy. Come back if needed. Okay, the rest of those events, what happened? We had on Turkey's, some minor pirates showed up. Now, the rules don't specify this completely, but the way I'm playing it, I didn't bother rolling for pirates over where there's no merchant fleets, no colonies, or anything like that. Basically what you do is you make a roll. If you get higher than the pirate number, you get a little pirate. Now those are going to prey on the minor fleets that are out there, and those fleets are going to pretty much be disintegrated by it. So it's going to take Europeans to come over there and defeat the pirates for any chance of trade to happen anymore. That's a little weird. You would guess that Japan, for example, and maybe even China, well, China definitely had some anti-piracy operations, which even after the fleet was discontinued, and the fleet hasn't started yet, if I'm remembering correctly, and certainly the Arabs over here did. So it's a little bit incorrect, but it's not that big a deal because, you know what? These guys aren't doing anything by being there. All that they're really having happen is that if and once Europeans come there, they become kind of a difficulty for the powers in Europe in terms of that's trading that they have to overcome. So although something, you know, in your EU computer game, which would be being tracked by the computer everywhere, is kind of being abstracted here, it has no effect on the players of the game. It just has, you know, kind of this, that's not right. What can happen, though, conceivably, is I believe these pirates could end up invading Aden or Oman, which could disrupt the incoming spices for the Europeans. Again, not a big deal because nobody's too much relying on those, but it could actually end up helping the prices. Okay, so who else? Yeah, lots of other things happened. One of them was, and there's nothing to do for this but to write these things down, there's poor weather. There's no marker for this. What that means is on half the rounds this turn, and this is horrible for Spain and maybe Portugal who want to do some exploring, for half the rounds, they're just not going to happen. You make a die roll, and half the time the round doesn't happen. And if it does happen, the difficulty of traveling goes up. So this is a bad blow for the countries with the jump on the exploration. Could be kind of cool for other people and might open up some opportunities that otherwise wouldn't happen. Although I doubt it, because they've got so many benefits on their side. Okay, and then for the other players, France and England both gained a point of naval technology that they didn't have to pay for. All right, I'm going to finish up the events segment, go with the political events before I close this video up, and I'll be back in a moment. Okay, well, I found where the political events are in the rules. They're sitting in the back of the annex table. I don't remember if I had a photocopy. I thought I did. I can't find one. So I made a little hand copy here that I'll use for this. I need a copy because I need to be able to mark things off. Now, normally there's going to be 3 of these events every turn. There's a potential for there to be an additional event on die rolls of 10 on the first die. Again, we'll use black as the first die, and we'll see what they are. First one is a 1-6, which is going to be first here, and now we count, and we don't just take column 6, we count from here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This becomes important if things as things get crossed off. So let's take a look at what's 7, and then it's got a backup event of a revolt. So if 7 doesn't apply, it's going to be a revolt. And we flip through here and find that it's Milan vassalized by the Habsburgs. Bad news for France. They didn't want this early necessarily. If Milan no longer exists, mark off and consider it as played. Otherwise, from now on, Milan is treated as permanent vassal status of Habsburgs. Habsburgs are involved in wars against Milan, and they can activate Milan in the same way as a major power. If Milan's currently engaged in a war, it declares war. The Habsburgs declare war against the enemies. This is important. This isn't Spain. It's the Habsburgs who have Milan here. I am going to mark it, if I can find it, with that. just to help remind me that this happened. And now I've got to write this down and mark the event off. So that was 7R. I mark it off, and I'll write down that it's there. I'll come back with what the rest of the events are. You can see how the die rolls kind of modify to the thing. And, well, I'll be back in bed. And already my solution has a problem, marking these here. For the first event and the second event was the Reformation. The effects of that are pretty simple. Denmark, Sweden, Berg, Bohemia, Teutonic Order, Prussia, Hansa, Thuringia, Hessen, Saxony, and Hanover and Transylvania, but not Hungary, become Protestant. Württemberg becomes a permanent vassal of the Habsburgs until the League of Schmalkalden. Switzerland becomes a Catholic Protestant special power. Okay, great. In which case, whoever's dealing with them gets to choose what they are. Okay, but then the last one, I rolled, I don't remember what it was, a 6-0, which is re-roll again on the next period. Well, the next period I don't have a chart for. This could be a problem, but let's see what we get. 35, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's going to be 4D. We go to the next period in order to see what happens here, and that's expansion of the Mughal Empire. Okay, we have multiple events of that. So Oude is annexed by the Mughals, and the Mughals can declare war on people, but there isn't really anyone to declare war on. Akbar is going to be added to the Mughal army, no biggie. So this is a fine one at this point because it doesn't really affect anyone. I've already kind of talked about that. It is marked off. I'm going to indicate it here, and maybe I'll remember it. This is going to be, what did I roll? Jeez. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I rolled a... And I doubt I'll remember that. I'm going to have to figure out whether or not this is going to work, keeping these embedded in the results like that, or if I need to copy the whole chart on a single piece of paper. Anyway, in order to represent that, I grab myself some kind of thing, and we say Oude. Well, that's this. And I think that's the end of the results there. So I'm going to load this up, and yes, we're taking a lot of time on this first turn. Obviously, I can't spend this kind of time on every turn. In fact, with 60 turns, I don't really want to have 60 different videos, so I may end up taking a really wide look back when we're starting. I should step back because you can't see my hand motion when I do that. When I start getting more into the flow of the game. But at this point, less is happening, and we can kind of look into details at just about everything. Alright, up it's going. And we're going to be hitting, hey, what phase next? We'll be hitting the diplomacy action. At this point, people will start plotting diplomacy. Then we're going to hit the administrative action where people fill out their little forms and make any purchases on economic investments and such not that they want to make. All of that is mainly very much stuff that I can't show you a lot of. I can show you the results of it on the paper, but to tell you the truth, there's not a lot you can gain unless I stood over the paper and told you about every decision I'm making, which isn't going to be a lot of fun. Maybe I'll do it, maybe I won't. I certainly won't do it while I'm writing it because, you know, that would take a tripod or something, right? All right, up it goes.